Okay, so you know how sometimes you get sucked down these internet rabbit holes? Like you start with a simple question and then boom, you're like knee deep in Wikipedia about, I don't know, the history of cheese graters or
Well,
something.
absolutely. It's like digital serendipity, right?
Totally. And sometimes those rabbit holes lead to some seriously fascinating discoveries, which is what we're all about today. We're doing a deep dive into the world of Today I Learned. You know, that corner of Reddit where every post is like a little aha moment
Wow.
waiting to
I
happen?
love that subreddit. Always a wild ride.
Right. So we've waded through a whole bunch of TIL posts and picked out some real gems to share. Stuff that'll make you stop and go, huh, I never knew that. Ready to get your mind blown?
Hit me with it. What you got?
All right, strap in because our first stop takes us all the way to ancient Scandinavia.
Ooh, Scandinavia, Vikings, fjords. Let's go.
Well, picture this. There's this TIL post about these cliffs in Sweden called Ättestupa. And legend has it they were the site of this ancient Norse ritual, senicide.
Senecide. Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that one.
Right, so senicide is basically the killing of the elderly.
Intriguing, but also kind of a heavy topic to unpack.
For sure. It's definitely a difficult concept to process from a modern perspective. But back then, in societies facing extreme hardship or limited resources, imagine if sacrificing the elderly, those who maybe couldn't contribute as actively, was seen as a way to ensure the survival of younger generations.
Okay, I can see how it would be viewed differently in those contexts, but still,
Yeah.
it really makes you think about how different our values are today.
Yeah, totally different world. But here's the thing, it gets even more interesting because there's actually very little hard evidence to support the idea that Ättestupa was actually used for senicide.
You're kidding. So this whole cliff leaping ritual could be a myth.
Some historians think so. They believe the whole thing might be a myth that emerged centuries later.
Wow. That just goes to show you can't believe everything you read, even, or maybe especially,
Right.
when it comes to history.
Right. It really makes you stop and think, like, what do we accept as fact today that might be viewed with skepticism centuries from now?
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty. History is written by the winners, after all, or at least by those who write it down.
Truth. Okay, ready for something a bit lighter?
Oh, definitely. That one was a bit heavy.
Okay, so this next TIL post dives into the world of, get this, corporate espionage.
Ooh, juicy. Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me the details.
All right, so imagine you're Coca-Cola. You've got this top secret recipe worth probably like a gazillion dollars, right? And then one day you get this letter.
Oh, let me guess. From their arch nemesis, Pepsi.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Okay, this is getting good. What did the letter say? Dear Coke, we found your secret formula, and we're going to start selling it on the black market.
Close, but not quite that dramatic. Basically, Pepsi was like, hey, just wanted to let you know, someone tried to sell us your secret formula. Thought you should know.
Wow. Talk about awkward.
Right. Imagine the faces in the Coca-Cola boardroom when that letter arrived.
I bet their legal department went into overdrive.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did Pepsi, take the secret formula and run?
Here's the kicker. They didn't. In fact, they did the complete opposite of what you might expect in the cutthroat world of, the coal wars.
Wait, they didn't steal the recipe. That's unexpected.
They didn't. They contacted Coca-Cola directly and handed over all the evidence. Basically, they were like, look, we don't do business like that.
Wow, that's some serious integrity right there. You don't see that every day, especially in the business world.
Right. It really makes you wonder what their thought process was.
Yeah, were they worried about legal repercussions?
Uh-huh.
Or did they genuinely just not want to win that way?
Maybe a bit of both. But either way, it's a pretty amazing story. I mean, talk about taking the high road.
Totally. They could have seriously profited from that. But they chose to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that sometimes doing the right thing is its own reward.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, ready for another one?
Bring it on. I'm ready for anything at this point.
This one is a little out there. So there's this study suggesting that people with tattoos might have a lower average age of death.
Wait, what? Tattoos can predict your lifespan. Okay, I need to hear more about this.
Me too, to be honest, because when I first saw this TL post, I was like, hold on, is that even possible? But apparently there's research that suggests some kind of correlation.
Okay, before we go any further,
Mhm.
we need to be careful about this whole correlation versus causation thing.
Yeah,
Just because two things are linked doesn't mean one causes the other.
exactly. And that's what I was thinking too.
Are we saying that getting inked literally shaves years off your life? Or are there other factors at play here?
Right. It could be anything, right? Maybe people who choose to get tattoos are, I don't know, statistically more likely to engage in certain lifestyle choices or behaviors that could unfortunately impact their lifespan.
Right. It's not the tattoo itself, but other factors that might be more common in that group. Like maybe there's a correlation between having tattoos and, say, riding motorcycles. I'm just spitballing here.
I see what you mean. Or maybe it's something to do with socioeconomic factors, right? Like
Yeah.
access to healthcare and stuff like that. It can make a big difference.
It's like putting together a puzzle. You have to look at all the pieces, not just one or two.
And that's what makes these TIL discoveries so fascinating, right?
Yeah,
They make you question everything.
totally. Speaking of questioning everything, this next TIL post blew my mind. Ready for this? Okay, so you know how pinball is this classic arcade game, right? Harmless fun for all ages.
Yeah, who doesn't love a good pinball machine?
Well, get this. Back in the 1940s and 50s, pinball was considered a tool of the underworld.
What? Seriously? Pinball? You're telling me the game with the flashing lights and the little silver ball was considered like a threat to society?
I know, right? Sounds crazy now, but it's true. Back then, pinball was seen as this shady, mafia-controlled form of gambling that corrupted the youth and basically fueled organized crime. They even banned it in cities across the U.S.
You're kidding. People were that freaked out over pinball.
Oh, yeah. It was a whole thing. It's actually a really interesting example of how social perceptions can change so drastically over time.
It's like how everyone thought video games would turn us all into mindless zombies back in the day, and now it's like a billion-dollar industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just entertainment, right? Think about all the things that were once considered taboo or scandalous that are now totally normal.
It really makes you think about what future generations will think about our hang-ups, right?
Totally. But going back to pinball, it wasn't until the 1970s that things started to change. There was this pivotal court case where an expert actually demonstrated the skill involved in playing pinball, and that helped to overturn the ban in New York City.
Oh, so they actually had to prove that pinball wasn't all just luck.
Yep. And that paved the way for pinball's eventual comeback story, from being demonized to becoming this beloved classic. Pretty wild, right?
What a redemption arc. See, pinball, there's hope for us all. Okay, ready for one more TIL before we wrap up this deep dive?
Always down for one more.
Okay, so this last one is a real heart-tugger. It's about a senior citizen named Emmerich Jettner. Now, Emmerich here was, shall we say, a bit of a DIY enthusiast when it came to finances.
DIY finances.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure I like where this is going.
Yeah, so Emmerich decided to take matters into his own hands, literally. He started printing his own money.
Whoa, 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 hold the phone. He was counterfeiting money.
He was, but there's a twist. Emmerich wasn't some criminal mastermind trying to, buy himself a private island or anything. He was making $1 bills. And get this, he was doing it to support himself and his dog.
Oh, that's kind
Yeah.
of sad. So it wasn't about greed, it was about survival.
Exactly.
Still illegal, though. You can't just go around printing your own money, even if it's just for dog food.
Absolutely not. And it's not like he got away with it either.
So what happened? Did he end up in jail?
He did. But here's the thing. The authorities were surprisingly lenient on him.
Really? That's surprising. Counterfeiting is a serious offense.
It is. But maybe the judge saw something more in Emmerich's case, Like, here's this guy, down on his luck, just trying to take care of himself and his furry companion. He wasn't hurting anyone, just trying to make ends meet.
And he probably wasn't exactly the criminal mastermind of the century either, considering he misspelled Washington on some of the bills.
That's the detail that kills me. You can't make this stuff up.
It really puts a human face on the whole situation, doesn't it?
Totally. And it kind of makes you think, like, where do we draw the line between right and wrong? When is leniency warranted? It's not always black and white,
Totally agree. It's like those moral dilemmas they throw at you in philosophy class.
Exactly. It's definitely a thought-provoking story. And it speaks to those shades of gray we often find in life.
Absolutely. It's not always black and white, is it? Kind of like this next TIL post we have, actually.
Oh, lay it on me.
So this one takes us back to the world of body art, with a finding that might raise a few eyebrows, or should we say tattoos.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Hit me with it.
All right, so get this. There's a study suggesting that people with tattoos have a lower average age of death.
Wait a minute. Are you saying tattoos can, predict your lifespan?
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw it. But
Yeah.
hold your horses before you go scheduling any tattoo removal appointments.
It's crucial to remember that just because two things are correlated, it doesn't mean that one actually causes the other, Oh, absolutely. Correlation, not causation. Like maybe people who have tattoos are also more likely to, skydive every weekend or something.
Exactly. Or maybe there are other factors we're not even considering, like socioeconomic factors definitely play a role in lifespan. Things like access to healthcare can make a huge difference.
Right, so many other pieces of the puzzle.
And that's why it's so important not to jump to conclusions based on just one study. There's almost always more to the story.
Totally. You've got to keep an open mind and, do your own research. Speaking of things that make you go, our next TL post takes us back in time.
Oh, I love a good history lesson.
This one's a doozy. Did you know that back in the day, pinball machines were considered tools of the underworld?
Wait, what? Pinball? Like the game you find at arcades?
The one and only.
No way. I always thought pinball was like the most innocent game ever.
Right, but seriously, back in the 1940s and 50s, people were seriously freaked out by pinball. They thought it was this shady, mafia-controlled form of gambling.
Get out of town. They were that scared of a little silver ball.
I know, it sounds crazy, right? But they were convinced that pinball was corrupting the youth and fueling organized crime. They even banned it in some cities.
That's wild. It just goes to show you how much times have changed.
Totally. It's a good reminder that things aren't always as they seem.
So how did pinball go from public enemy number one to beloved arcade classic?
Well, it took a while, but eventually people started to realize that pinball wasn't the root of all evil. There was this big court case in the 70s where an expert demonstrated the skill involved in playing pinball, and that helped to overturn the ban in New York City.
Oh, so they had to prove that pinball wasn't just all luck and chance.
Yep. And once the ban was lifted in New York, well, that was pretty much the end of the pinball panic.
What a comeback story. On the wrong side of the tracks to arcade royalty. Okay, what else you got?
All right, last but not least, we have a story that's equal parts heartwarming and, well, kind of illegal.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So this one's about a guy named Emmerich Juetner, an older gentleman who decided to take matters into his own hands when it came to his finances.
Uh-oh. Matters into his own hands and finances don't usually mix well.
You said it. So Emmerich here, he starts printing his own money.
Hold up. He was counterfeiting. Isn't that like a serious crime?
It is. But there's a catch. Emmerich wasn't some criminal mastermind living the high life. He was making $1 bills, and he was using the money to support himself and his dog.
Oh, that's kind of heartbreaking. So not exactly a victimless crime, but definitely not your typical counterfeiting operation.
Exactly. And you know what's even crazier? When Emmerich was caught, the authorities went easy on him.
Seriously. I guess even the justice system has a soft spot for dog lovers.
Right. I mean, I'm not condoning counterfeiting or anything, but there's just something about this story that resonates,
Absolutely. It makes you wonder, like, when is leniency justified? It's a tough
It
question.
really is. It's like, how do you weigh someone's intentions against their actions?
And what about the whole idea of a victimless crime? If someone's just trying to survive, is it really hurting anyone?
So many questions, so little time. But hey, isn't that what makes these TLL deep dives so fascinating? They make you think about the world in a whole new light. It really makes you think about the gray areas of life, doesn't it?
It does. It's a good reminder that things aren't always black and white. Just like that first story about those Swedish cliffs, right? Etta Stupa, was it?
Yeah, Etta Stupa. Talk about a story that's evolved over time. Who knows what really happened there?
Exactly. It makes you realize that even history can be a bit of a rabbit hole.
Truth. Which is kind of a perfect way to sum up our whole deep dive today.
Right. We started with ancient rituals, jumped over to corporate espionage, pondered the meaning of tattoos, and ended up debating the ethics of counterfeiting.
All thanks to some random facts we found online. Let's see. The internet isn't all doom scrolling and cat videos. Sometimes you stumble upon these little nuggets of knowledge that just make you see the world differently.
Totally. It's like those aha moments rewire your brain.
They do. Suddenly you're seeing everything through a new lens.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, the next time you find yourself scrolling through Reddit or, let's be real, any corner of the internet, keep an eye out for those TIL gems.
Because you never know what you might learn.
You really don't. And hey, maybe you'll even have your own Today I Learned moment to share with the world.
Now that's something to strive for.
It is. Well, on that note, we're going to have to wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those aha moments coming.
And don't forget to stay curious, everyone.
Absolutely.